Hello and welcome to the Wolfi community meeting. It is Wednesday, March 8th, 2023. Welcome. Today we have Jason who's going to give a demo.
Not a demo, but a presentation. Let me present real quick. All right. You see this? Everybody seeing this? All right. Mainly, I don't expect this to be news to folks in this room, or I mean to many of the folks in this room. But this was a presentation that I gave a couple of weeks ago to the Kubernetes Atlanta meetup group, and they were total Wolfi noobs. I mean this in the good way. They didn't know anything about it, and so this was sort of a completely from scratch, you don't know anything about us, what is this sort of overview. Like I said, I expect many of us already know most of this stuff, or at least some of this stuff, and if not, I can teach you, and if what I'm saying is wrong, please correct me, because I told a bunch of noobs this information, and it would be great if it was right. So yeah, I'm here to talk about Wolfi, a more secure container undistro. That's my big stupid face. Let's keep going. I work at ChainGuard. We make the software supply chain secure by default. We do this in a lot of ways. We are engaged in SBOM creation stuff, SigStore, and ChainGuard Enforce and ChainGuard Images. And what I'm here to tell you about is Wolfi, which will also overlap a little with images, which we'll talk about a little later. So first, we should define what a secure base image is. In general, there is no official definition, but the idea is that there are some things that we can do to make these base images safer to consume. One is you can sign them. You can cryptographically prove that they came from a CI process and not some rando person's laptop. You can trace the build from there all the way back to the source that produced it. You might be able to reproduce it from that source. You might at least be able to figure out what was trying to happen at that time in history. This makes it a lot more safe than just like finding a base image on a USB stick on a conference floor. In addition to signing, we also produce SBOMs at build time. We know exactly what we're putting in the image and what vulnerabilities are in those things that go into the image, and we can tell you upfront what's in there. This is better than the alternative, which is to take an image you got from the internet, the random internet, and scan it and try to figure out what's in there, because some things might not be detected, or might be detected wrong, or might be, there might be a loss of information between build time and the time you get it. We would like to avoid that. And a big thing we're going to talk about is fast updates from upstream, which is where Wolfi comes in. So a big part of what Wolfi does is ensure faster updates from upstream. The idea here is that vulnerabilities are inevitable. Writing vulnerability-free code is impossible. And so it's much better to react quickly to vulnerabilities and get fixes in very quickly than it is to sort of pretend that it's possible to write vulnerability-free code. Patches are actually pretty available pretty quickly. When there is a vulnerability, especially a really critical one, especially in really core software, the maintainers of those projects are really good about taking pride in their work and having patches available quickly. The problem is it can still take weeks to end up in your base image. So, for instance, there might be a patch, but it hasn't made it into an actual release yet. Once it gets into a release, Debian usually, Debian, I'm picking on Debian, but there are many other things here that aren't Debian that distribute that from the upstream. Once Debian accepts it and brings it in, it can take a while to get into Docker Hub's Debian image. And from there, your release schedule will pick it up and release it on your own schedule. So each of those arrows can be at least hours, if not days, if not weeks, and in some scary cases, months, between when there is, the upstream project had a patch available at a certain time, but it might take weeks or months to get into your actual running code. And that's something we'd like to avoid. In order to solve this, we decided we need to have complete control over the supply chain from soup to nuts, all the way from the beginning of the process down to the end. We can't inflict anything on your release schedule, but we can at least take care of the first 3 arrows to say, as soon as there is a patch available, we would like to have it in an image available to you as quickly as possible. And that's why we started Wolfi. Wolfi is an undistro. This is proven to be a somewhat controversial term, or at least confusing. It's a Linux distro, but without a kernel, basically, or a GNU distro without a kernel. It expects to be run in a container. Unlike Alpine, unlike Debian, you can't install Wolfi directly on hardware at this time. Purely a packaging ecosystem as of right now. Like Alpine, it is based on APKs, on the APK package format. And unlike Alpine, which is Musl-based, musl-based, Wolfi is glibc-based. All packages are built from upstream source. We update and rebuild as soon as an upstream repo releases, hopefully as soon as. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Like most distros, we rebuild as often, as quickly as we can, and with a lot of automation to keep up to date as fast as possible. We're open source, obviously. It wouldn't make much sense to be this transparent and then also have everything be closed source. We want to have transparent build configs. We want to have an auditable build process and build logs, a repeatable bootstrapping process. From the beginning of the universe, you could reproduce Wolfi the same way we did. That's the goal and the intention, at least. Whether or not that actually holds up, we'll see. Let's talk about why we want to build from source. There are a lot of pre-release vulnerability patches. So somebody reports a CVE and has a patch for it right away, but it hasn't yet been included in a release. So we want to have a way to slip in a patch before it's in the upstream release. If we just depended purely on what the upstream was giving us, we wouldn't have any way to inject those patches. Because we build from source, we can also enable certain security-focused build options. One of these is GCC's Fortify Source Level 3. This tells GCC to build the code in such a way that it can prevent buffer overflows and mitigate a certain class of vulnerabilities. Wolfi enables that by default. As far as I know, feel free to correct me, you people in this room or anyone listening on the video later. As far as I know, Wolfi is the only distro to enable this by default at this time. We also enable position-independent executables, again, by default. This is another build time option that makes a certain class of vulnerabilities harder to exploit. And then there's one more case, which I think is really useful and instructive, is curl, a very commonly used tool and library for talking to the internet, has a number of TLS backends, one of which was written in Rust, and has had this option since 2019. Basically, you can build curl with any of these backends, one of them being this one written in Rust, and Wolfi uses that one by default. If you don't want the Rust backend, you can use a different one. We also provide that one, but the default one we ship ships with Rust support by default. So this has a lot of memory safety benefits. This is code that goes out into the scary open internet and talks to stuff. It's really nice to know that you have a memory safe implementation of TLS when you're going out into the scary dark woods and talking to the internet. How we build from source, we have invented a tool called Melange. Ariadne invented a tool called Melange, which takes a YAML config and produces an APK from that config. You can declare a set of pipeline or set of steps in order that run, that fetch source, that build source, that produce the output and produce an APK from that output. You can declare runtime dependencies. You can declare build time dependencies in here. Packages that Wolfi builds are signed with Wolfi's signing key. We also support ARM builds at this time, which we run on GKE clusters, and cross-compilation. Melange supports cross-compilation using QEMU, we don't currently take advantage of it in Wolfi. Melange is a tool. It's open source. It's not specific to Wolfi. Anybody who wants to can use it to produce APKs. You can make some that are compatible with Alpine. You can make some that are compatible with Wolfi. You can make some that are any other thing. Melange is the tool we use to do that. And like I mentioned before, because we're building from source, we have the ability to inject patches. So in this pipeline, for instance, it downloads the kube control source and checks that the SHA is as expected. If we wanted to inject a patch that fixed some critical CVE that wasn't released yet, we could put it right there in the pipeline. We can also enable other build flags. If there was a like make secure Kubernetes or kubectl, we could enable it there. But that's sort of very zoomed in into one package. There's also the issue of how we build from all the packages from source. There's a lot of packages to maintain. It's about 3,500 today. And this is a drop in the bucket compared to Alpine. So we really need to lean into automation, lean into treating these configs as cattle and not pets, and just steering the herd of these packages around instead of having to care about each individual one. To do this, we have a lot of automation around creating PRs when upstream projects release. We have some automation to detect CVEs reported in those packages and automate reporting the fixes for those. We also do a lot of CI, obviously, but also linter checks and standard YAML formatting and stuff to make the repo easier to handle as a large unit of things instead of a bunch of individual snowflake pets. And we're just getting started here. I think actually a lot of the interesting work we're doing on the team is better and better ways to make this automatable and scalable as we have more packages. One of the cool things that James mainly has done is to automate sending PRs when upstream packages release. This is a screenshot from a few weeks ago, but there was another one today of a new Jenkins package update that was just sent right to us. You check it, you eyeball it, it looks right, it passes CI, you approve it, and now we have the newest, latest, greatest Jenkins. So that's Wolfi. The main thing that Wolfi provides us is these fast upstream updates and the ability to apply patches, enable security options by default. With Wolfi, we aim to and try to be as transparent and auditable as possible. We try to have reproducible builds, and we try to document and have enough tools that you could build Wolfi from scratch, from nothing, if you wanted to prove that you came to the same result. Now, you might be asking yourself, how do I get it? What do I do to start buying into this lovely, wonderful Wolfi world? The first and probably easiest, if you have a Docker file that is from Alpine today, you should be able to change that from Alpine to from Wolfi base. This is our Wolfi base image. It includes APK, just like Alpine does. You can install curl and Git and Python and Ruby, whatever else. This is a weird build because it's installing both Python and Ruby, but I won't judge. This example is even itself a little misleading. We have a different name for some of the packages. Python is named something else than Alpine, and Ruby is named something else than Alpine. But for the most part, it should be a pretty smooth migration. If you're migrating from Debian or from Ubuntu or something that isn't APK based, you'll have to add APK instead of apt-get or whatever. But mainly, this is the easiest and simplest way to start taking part in the Wolfi experience. The second is a tool that we use at ChainGuard called APKO. Like Melange, it has one job to do, and that is just produce container images from APKs. It doesn't require a Docker daemon to do it. It doesn't spin up any containers. It doesn't require any privilege. It's basically HTTP and tar and not much else. It makes it really easy to build distroless images that don't have a package manager in them. The equivalent of the previous example is here on the right in APKO YAML. Install curl, install Git, install Python, install Ruby. Unlike the last one, this one doesn't have the package manager in it. It doesn't have APK. So once you've built this image, There's no way to easily add new packages, which is what you want at runtime. You don't want to add new packages. APKO includes, generates SBOMs by default because it knows exactly what it put into the image. It knows you only asked for these 4 packages. It put them there. That's the SBOM. So option 2 is APKO, and option 3 is chain guard images, which we provide for you. We basically have a repo that has all these APKO YAMLs that produce all these images on a nightly basis. We sign them. We have a transparent, auditable build process there too. We sign them. We have SBOMs. We have vulnerability scan attestations that say when this left the factory, it had 1 vuln or 2 vulns or 5 vulns or 0 vulns, hopefully. And the images are built for AMD 64 and ARM 64. You can learn more at that URL there. And we'd love for anyone seeing this to come try it out, give feedback, let us know what's missing. You can join us at wolfi.dev/community. We have monthly meetings, which you may be able to join right now, depending on what you're doing. So yeah, that's Wolfi, and here's where we do a Q&A. Somewhat weirdly, most of the people here probably have better A's than my Q's. So it's a great time to have your Q&A. All right. How'd I do, everyone? All right. Did anybody learn anything?
I did, actually. Yep. I thought it was great. Can I pitch those slides?
No, those are copyright memes. They cost $100 per use.
Worth it. No, that was great.
Worth it. Yeah, I was making a joke about Q&A, but legitimately, if anyone has any questions, this would be a fantastic time to have them. When I gave this the original time, I didn't mention you by name, James, but since you're here, thank you for all of your automation around updating the packages, keeping the packages up to date. That's a great benefit.
We've only got about 60% there, so I think we need to little bit more just to get that hit that extra. And I think there's talk about trying to get the information to be able to help update, keep these Melange packages updated, moving that into the Melange configs themselves. So maybe folks will see that coming up soon.
Yeah, is that do you mean like in the Melange YAML have some config that says this comes from this, like this is where to go look for new releases?
Yeah. So currently there's two ways that we use to find out if there's a new version. There's a service, I think Fedora operate this service, where there's an API that we can hit and say, is this library, is there a new version of this? We only do that once a day because we have to send many requests. We want to be good citizens. We don't want to hammer that API. The other approach is if packages are in GitHub, then we actually have a GraphQL query that we run like regularly, like every half an hour or something. And so we can have one request that spins like many across all repos within GitHub. And so we can check if latest versions. So there's differences, subtle differences like that. Some versions have a prefix, some don't. And so there's subtle things that we need to do when we are doing an automatic update to know how the version and everything updates and where to get the info from.
Interesting. The GraphQL thing is not something I had considered, right? So right now, the automation says, like Helm, for instance, is a package we have, has Helm updated, and kubectl is a package we have, has kubectl updated. GraphQL would let us say, here are the 50 packages we're currently asking about. Have any of them updated? That's interesting.
Correct. Yeah, I think it does add the update. We haven't hit this limit yet, but it does batch it to 100 requests. GraphQL has a limit, but yeah, it's 100 requests per batch, so it's a lot nicer. Interestingly enough, in fact, not all packages, not all projects actually use this is the GitHub latest version. If they do a patch release of a security fix, that gets marked as the latest, the GitHub latest version. So we can't rely on that. So it actually has to get the last bunch of releases of tags and does a sort and works out exactly what the latest version is. So yeah, it's a little bit more to it, but it's working great for us.
That is frustrating, right? That's like the difference between the definitions of latest. Like one is the highest version numbered thing, and the other is most recent in time, which, yeah, isn't always what you want. But that's why I'm glad we have you on the case, James, because you think of these things. I would not have thought of these things.
Oh, I found a lot of reasons why. I did it wrong many times, that's why. But yeah, no, this is awesome. It seems to be working. We should get full coverage, hopefully very soon.
Nice. There's also, Dan is not here, but Dan and I talked last week some about automating CVE detection. If a new vuln drops on some package that we produce, we should at least be able to detect it and report it. And that sort of starts the process of us being able to find the patch, apply the patch, mark it as fixed. I think future weeks, future meetings of these, we will talk more with Dan about how that works. But that's another place I think automation really comes into play, is like when we have 10,000 of these or 50,000 of these, there's going to be a CVE every 5 seconds. Like how do we scale to the amount of stuff we need to do?
For what it's worth, having been the approach that Ariadne took with Melange and APK and having everything in YAML declarative, it just means you can build up these levels of automation over and above, and it's really becomes very powerful. So it's going to be really exciting to see where the automation is going to take us over the next months, years as well. And people can obviously be contributing and adding their own as well. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah. I like automating a mass number of YAMLs, right? Is way easier than having to hand edit a bunch of them. I recently made a large change to a bunch of YAMLs, and I wish that I had been able to do it just with like YQ. I did it with sed instead, but I should have done it with YQ, which is a scriptable tool to edit YAML files, or sort of like JQ for YAML. But
for anybody that's actually listening isn't aware, there is a Wolfi CTL, Wolfi control CLI that we use actually, and a lot of this automation has been added into there. So maybe check it out as well. And maybe I think that we've had folks, Furkan, I think maybe you or other folks added in the linting and awesome stuff as well. So it's been great, community contributions, community effort around this. So yeah, thanks for that.
yeah, I should say too, the linting stuff was very easy. I recently added a couple new lint checks, and it was very easy to add new lint checks, which was also very nice. I sort of had been putting it off because I assumed it would be hard, and it turned out to be like, I don't know, 20 lines ago or something to be able to run lints on everything. And now we have, when you fetch source from Git, you have to specify the expected commit, because the branch might move, or the tag might move, or the branch might not exist anymore, and we should fail in that case more loudly and more clearly if the expected commit isn't there. So thank you for adding such easy new lint checks. I'm excited to go add more lint checks and make this even easier. Yeah, I didn't really prepare anything else. So if anybody has, and this went very fast, maybe much faster than the first time I gave it. So I'm happy to cut it off, or if people have questions, we have all the experts here. James is here. You can ask him any question you want on any topic. All right.
I was also going to say, like, if there are any open issues that you all have on wolfi.dev, or PRs that you're like waiting to hear back from maintainers from, feel free to bring them up here too.
Good comment. Kirby's asking what the Rawlings Slack emoji is. We have a Slack emoji in our work Slack for James when he does good things.
Or bad things, maybe. We'll figure that out in time.
If you want, we can go through PRs here. Like, you know, I don't know what folks want to do with this meeting, but I can definitely go through some at least. Is that helpful? Would that be a good use of time?
I think it would be, could be. Maybe, I know there's a couple of older, I don't know what you planned, but there's a couple of Wolfi PRs which are up there.
Yeah, I know some of these. Do you know what the deal is with this? I think we have a new Python 3 installer. I'm going to ignore that one for now. I don't remember this one at all. Does this? Sorry, developer guy. I had completely forgotten about this one. Here's one thing I always do, which is I move these all back together. Cancel. I think I had recommended moving them around some to prevent merge conflicts. And I think I was unclear about how to do that. So I would move them, if that's all right with you. I'm just going to commit this. Oh, no, I'm doing it now. We're doing it live.
There's also, whilst you're doing that, there is, I think, Jason, you probably know more, well, you know more about this, but there is a plan or hope that we're going to move away from the makefile, right? So for anybody that's been working with this makefile and getting frustrated with the merge conflicts.
Yeah, I would love to get rid of the makefile. And I have some plans, and Wolfi Control, there's a PR to generate the makefile and or just have a new command that runs make for us instead of making us hand edit this makefile. I'm also going to enable auto merge, which is my new favorite best friend. And we'll see if that one works. Cilium CI. We'll add this one end. Oh, I remember. Can we just run make Cilium on this one? Because I think what we do is we try to do what make Cilium does in here. But if make Cilium changes in some way, I'd rather just get that update from them. Does that make sense? Is that oh no, I think my laptop is dying. Okay. This one should be good. I think. Resolve conflicts, probably. All right, this is a hint to James's work, which we haven't released yet, to take an an Alpine APK build file and generate a melange config from it, which is going to be super cool. I don't know, James, to put you on the spot, I don't know if you have a timeline for that.
Yeah, I think we had a discussion about it last week. I think we're going to. It was highly experimental, so we've been trying it out. I think we're going to try and get that into melange itself. So there'll be like a melange convert or melange generate command. It kind of gets you part of the way there. If you squint, then the APK build, an Alpine APK build, kind of looks a little bit like a melange config. It's got a lot of metadata and scripts and things. So it doesn't get you all the way there. It just gets you kind of, that puts a lot of scaffolding and figures out loads of dependencies. Sometimes you can have loads and loads of dependencies and this transitive dependency nest. So it can be overwhelming sometimes. So that's one option. And we've also, some other folks have actually added in support for Python and Ruby gems as well. So yeah, I think maybe, let's say in the next couple of weeks, I'd hope that we can try and get something in there into melange.
Nice. Yeah, it's super nice for getting 60% of the way there cheaply and easily, and then doing the rest of it
right
by hand. I just want to point out that in this PR that Dan sent us, someone very smart said you're going to get a merge conflict, and then lo and behold, if you scroll down, there's a bit of a merge conflict in the make file. I just want to point out, I don't know who that very smart, very handsome person was, but he's very smart and very handsome. There we go. And he'll fix the problem. I guess it's still work in progress. I'm not going to merge it, but it's at least going to be green.
I think we need to update that template a little bit so that we're either checking the boxes or we're removing them when they're inappropriate or something, rather than just leaving a bunch of unchecked sort of requirements.
Yeah, I agree. There's a bunch of, I think we could probably make, unfortunately for issues, you can have issue templates, but you can't have like PR templates. It would be great to say, this is a new package, this is a security update, this is a whatever, and have a different template for each of those.
Right.
But yeah, like we basically have just ignored these, which isn't super. James, what's this one about? Are you removing lint.sh?
Yes. No. So I noticed Wolfi was being run twice. Wolfi CTL was Wolfi control was being run twice. Now, the significance of this is we used to compile Wolfi control from source in the action, and it just adds like 2 or 3 minutes into the build. But now we have an image being produced, and so we've switched the linting over to use that, so it's super fast. And so rather than, I did try and move that Wolfi advisory set fixes out and into the linter, but it wasn't working, and I totally forgot I was doing it, and so I need to finish it off.
Excellent. Okay, I'm not going to worry about it then. But that sounds cool. Recourse CLI. Can I sign off and commit these? I guess I can't commit someone else's proposal. Or no, it's out of date. Maybe it's
I can. I fixed those comments.
Perfect. Okay, I'm gonna resolve them just so that I don't get confused there. And it's this makefile, man. Can't wait to get rid of it. That should be good. It's gonna run through CI again, but then it's gonna approve. Sorry, and then it's gonna merge. Yeah, I recently sent a PR to get rid of, we don't need to specify the target architecture. We don't need to specify the paths. Don't worry about this. I will go back and remove these or do whatever with them later. It's not that they're a bad thing to have. It's just an unnecessary thing. So that's totally fine. SOCAT. My battery might die any moment. If it does, have a great time, everyone. And James is in charge. I don't know what these patches are. Does anyone have more context about SOCAT than I do? I guess there wouldn't be more here. It's just doing great work as always.
SOCAT is used to take like a TCP stream and turn it into a Unix socket. I believe that's the purpose of it.
Cool. Do you know anything about these patches? I just don't know what they're for.
Nope, I don't know.
Okay. I'll follow up and ask more about that later. We don't have to go into that now. Dan is adding SBT stuff for Scala. This is also going to get a merge conflict. I told you so. Sure looks like stuff to me. I guess it's already been approved, but
Yeah, I think he's still quite active on it at the moment.
oh, should I disable auto merge?
I I think it's fine. I think maybe, well,
I guess he did it. He did force merge 10 minutes ago. Oh, because of my expected commit lint check.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. I think it's probably good to go.
Yeah.
Did you already approved it?
I did, yeah.
I'm gonna keep that going. And a Kafka package from this Dan Lawrence fella. I think that's the same thing. I think it's gonna be tag is missing. Yeah. Okay, so there's not a ton of new. I mean, so most of these are pretty good. K3D. I don't remember what the blockage was on K3D. Seems like we could update that one. And Argo CD CLI. This might have been. I'll take this one. Take this one offline. I'm just gonna run and get my charger real quick.
That was quite good to get through some of those PRs. Now we've been having tons going through, which is awesome to see all the contributions everyone's been putting up there. I think we're going to be building up adding in some more automation as well, so that hopefully we can get better checks, so we have better confidence and we can merge things in faster as well. So that's going to be something else to look forward to in the coming weeks and months.
Yeah, I've become a super huge fan of auto merge and of just committing changes to things. If there's a merge conflict in the make file, which we all hate, or if there's a little tiny white space change or something, I'll just commit that commit that change myself and merge it. I hope that's okay. I never really asked permission, but it's easier than having a back and forth for another day to get the white space fixed or whatever.
Yeah, definitely. One thing, Patrick, you mentioned earlier actually about the merge queue, the new feature on GitHub. We did try and enable it, I think maybe 2 weeks ago, but we needed to enable the CI to run on this. The feature creates a brand new branch and puts a load of commits together. And so we just need to get CI to be able to trigger on that. We just haven't tried it again yet.
That branch name is dynamic, I guess. You need to do some kind of draw pattern or something to.
Yeah, it's something like, I don't know, merge queue star, and it should work.
Okay. And do we think merge queue will make a big difference for us at the moment?
Sometimes if you're merging, it's nice to go in a little flurry like we just did then. Every time you merge currently, that will spin up infrastructure, and it's maybe a bit wasteful, and it can be a bit slow and things like that.
Okay.
If we've got maybe 5, you can set a period of 5 minutes and a maximum of a number. So you can go through, pick them all the ones you want, you add them to the merge queue. If merge queue isn't full after 5 minutes, it'll just take them, and it'll do a similar thing to what Proud did actually. So it'll take a batch of them, and then I think might even do one of them as well, so that at least one change will actually get merged in if there's CI failures.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds great.
Can I ask a potentially stupid question on a recording in a public meeting? What benefit does a merge queue give us? What would it help us with?
I think what it'll do is it will batch up a number of say melange config changes, PRs together, and it'll put them onto a branch, and it'll test them all together, and then it'll do a single merge into main. And so we then have one release cluster be created, and it would just one job would then run through those 5 melange configs.
Okay. It sounds
rather than having 5 separate ones.
It sounds like it reduces the amount of CI runs per pull request merge into main. Does that sound right?
Well, possibly yes, but also it would be one single merge into main rather than like 5 or 10 or whatever the number we choose.
Trevor is saying it adds more. So I'm definitely confused.
I think it's going to be less. I think it'll be better, but what I would say is caveat that with we haven't tried it yet, so maybe let's try it and see.
I think the thing it helps with, if I'm understanding it correctly, is if code change A and code change B are both green in isolation, but somehow cause failures when they are both merged, then okay. I'm encouraged by hearing that I might be having this right. That it helps you. It checks that A is green, it checks that B is green, it checks that A and B is green, and then it merges. I don't know if that helps with any of our problems though. Like most of our files or most of our changes are either totally separate packages that have no, no way for the two to conflict in behavioral ways, or they're like straight merge conflicts that like would never. You don't need to like run CI. You just need to like, we can tell this is a merge conflict. Is that?
Yeah. Yes, right? But I think it's still the merge into main, rather than having 10 triggers of 10 clusters booting up and doing a release pipeline for all 10 packages in quick succession, it would only just be one. I think that's where I see the main benefit.
Okay, so in that case, it sounds like you're saying it's not check if A is green and check if B is green and check if A plus B is green. It's just saying, are A plus B green? And so it runs it once.
I think James is talking about the post-merge release CI. Is that what you're saying, James?
So
I'm glad we're having this conversation because I think I'm learning more about this feature as we have it.
I know what I'm going to be trying out tomorrow morning anyway. How about we? I think it reduces the number of commits that go into the merged into the main branch, which ultimately would then mean less number of release clusters get spun up to do like single release of a single package. But that is able to happen because we collect on a pre-submit dynamically created branch. It pulls in like 5 or 10 packages from the merge queue, molds them all together, runs CI, and if CI is fine, then it will merge it in as a single.
That sounds crazy. I don't want just one commit, right?
Because then you can't revert anything.
Well, maybe.
It might not be a single commit, right? I think it's a single push of still multiple commits.
Yes.
That single push will still result in us making one post merge. Let's go build it, run instead of okay.
I think it's like the prowl batching thing. I think that's what it's like.
Okay, so it's less about ensuring correctness pre-submit and more about potentially running less post-submit, we think.
Yes, I think.
Great. All right.
Let's just definitely not read any docs and just go based off of our assumptions.
Let's try to understand this from first principles instead of ever reading anything. Okay, great. Now we have homework. Thanks, Patrick. Okay, great. I have definitely used merge queues in the past. I promise. I promise I know how to engineer things. But it's great that we have this option, whether or not. See it, Adolfo. It's great that we have the option in any case. When we tried it before, the problem was that the merge queue branch would never get a runner or would never.
Correct, because you have required CI checks, and so they were never being triggered effectively, and so they would never go green.
Okay, interesting. Okay, in any case, it sounds like it's not going to be the thing I thought it was beneficial for. It is not beneficial for, and it is beneficial for something else.
Yeah. I think so.
Okay. Great. Well, cool. I don't once again, I don't have anything else and we have 13 minutes left, so I'm happy to go use this time to go read Patrick's homework. And learn about
I said don't read that.
don't read it. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
good. Well, I can definitely spend the next 14 minutes not reading.
So
Okay, great.
really quick final announcement. So we're changing the cadence of the call. So it used to be every other Wednesday. Now we're doing every first Wednesday of the month. So, and in doing that, hoping that a month will give us a good amount of time to plan for more agenda for these hour-long calls. So if anyone's watching this and wants to get on that agenda, send a message somewhere to something, and we're working on that process too. So
File an issue in the community repo, maybe show up at Josh's door with a bouquet of flowers. He'll get the message. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. See you, everyone.